with India's top portfolio managers on Alpha Moguls. Thursdays, only on Bloomberg Quint.
Good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Ask BQ on Bloomberg Quint Live. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza. Well, this is the show where we address all your stock queries, so you can write to us on Twitter, Facebook, or just call us now on 022-4540-4141. You can also mail us your queries at askbq@bloombergquint.com, and we'll try and address as many as possible on the show. But just remember to add the AskBQ hashtag. Well, let's get in our two experts of the day then. Sameet Chavan of Angel Broking and Vikas Sethi of Sethi Finmart are here to answer all your queries. Welcome to the show, gentlemen, and good afternoon to both of you. Well, before we take a look at the individual queries, here's a quick look as to what's happening with the markets. We did have a gap up opening today, some respite after the losses that we've been seen in the last few sessions. After yesterday's mild green tick, Nifty managed to inch to higher than 10,200 mark as well. But as we speak, the markets are actually off the day's high. Nifty currently trading around the mark of 10,183. But the gains today have been across the board, so be it the benchmarks, Nifty, Sensex, or the broader market indices, the mid-cap and the small-cap indices too are seeing good amount of gains. Sensex also trading with gains of 0.6%. The Nifty mid-cap 100 index, as we speak, has seen gains of nearly 130 points. I want to pull up the contributors list among the Nifty constituents, because that's going to tell you what exactly is contributing in today's session. So the list is actually dominated by the heavyweights. HDFC Twins feature, they're contributing nearly 16 points to the gains. Reliance Industries also contributing about 7 points. What's dragging the indices lower? Well, the losses today are capped, actually. We've not seen any major losses coming about. So something like Eicher Motors, which went up 3% yesterday, has just seen some profit booking today. And stocks like Tech Mahindra, which have been seeing fresh highs in the recent past, have seen some sort of cool off. And stocks like Hero Moto and Tata Steel are trading in the red. Well, talking about broader markets, the trend will be clearly visible if you look at the advanced decline ratio, though the known liquid universe from the mid-cap and the small-cap indices trade in the green. But currently, you've got the advanced decline ratio firmly in favor of the advances. So that's about 2:1. In terms of sectoral indices, the Nifty Realty Index has seen good amount of gains. And obviously, the PSU Banking Index has also contributed to the gains that one is seeing for Bank Nifty. But I just want to highlight few gainers, the few constituents of the Nifty Realty Index. So pull up stocks like Oberoi Realty, India Bulls Realty, as well as Godrej Properties. All of them have seen good amount of gains. And if you look at the broader universe, you've got stocks like TV today. That's once again bounced back. Remember, the deal was announced this week where they sold 3 stations to ENIL. Post that, there was some profit booking. But once again, the stocks picked up momentum today. Ashoka Buildcon, the company, announced an interim dividend yesterday. And also, they've been chosen as the lowest bidder for one of the road projects. That's the reason why the stock's doing well. ITDC is gaining with about 6% higher. On the losing side, just few stocks. Sameet Industries, among the fertilizer pack, you've got FACT and Reliance Naval. So these are the one which are currently trading weak as we speak. But it's time for us to address a couple of the viewer queries then. And our first query for the day comes on YouTube from Dheeraj Pawar. He writes to us. He's got 50 shares of Ashok Leyland, which Dheeraj bought at 92 rupees with a long-term view. He wants to know what he should do. Well, Dheeraj, clearly that's a good entry level. And despite of markets turning weak, remember, Ashok Leyland has been pretty strong after its December quarter earnings, which were really good. Ashok Leyland, if you pull up the YTD chart, it's going to show you it has given returns of between 20 to 25%, so almost 25%. I'm going to take this query to Vikas. Vikas, if somebody's bought Ashok Leyland sub 100 rupees, what would you advise them to do? Is it the appropriate time to book profits, or they should stay invested?
Good afternoon, Navneet. First, I would like to compliment the investor for having bought a good stock at the right price. He's already sitting on a gain of close to 50%, but I feel from here on also the stock would give you good returns. So I would recommend a hold on the stock. The CV cycle is doing well, and the company has also forayed into electric vehicle segment. They've recently bagged some orders for electric buses, which could be a good area and a high growth area. So my recommendation would be to hold on to the stock and just wait for tremendous gains in the years ahead.
Okay, Dheeraj, that's the advice coming in from Vikas. Hold on to Ashok Leyland. You may see further appreciation for the stock price from the current levels itself. Let's take our next query. This one comes from Aman Panani, who writes to us on WhatsApp. Aman's got 450 shares of Manpasand Beverages, which he bought around 385, and he's got a short-term view. So he wants to know what should he do. Can we pull up the current price of Manpasand Beverages? 385 is the buy price. It slipped to levels of 357. Sameet, I'll come to you. Since this is a short-term query, what would you advise Aman to do?
So this stock has underperformed in last 5 to 6 weeks, wherein the stock corrected quite sharply from high levels of 500. It is now trading around its make or break level, which is placed around 348, 350. So if the stock manages to give some kind of recovery and trades above 365, we could see some kind of relief rally. But if that doesn't happen and if the stock slips below 347, that could trigger fresh corrective move in this stock. So my suggestion would be to keep a strict stop loss around 347, and once the stock breaks below this important support level, then one should move out of it.
Okay, so Aman, you heard from Sameet that keep a strict stop loss if you want to hold on to this position around the mark of 347, and the current price of Manpasand Beverages is somewhere about 357, trading with cuts of nearly 0.7%. Moving on to our next query, Benish MB writes to us on Twitter. He wants to know, he wants to invest in MT Educare with a long-term view. He wants to know if it is advisable to enter into this counter at current levels. Vikas, if you track the space, would you advise Benish to buy into MT Educare?
Navneet, I do not like anything from the education space. Actually, we've seen that most of the stocks from the education sector have not created any kind of returns for investors, whether they are long-term investors or short-term investors. And since there are a lot of opportunities elsewhere in the market, I would recommend that he should avoid investing into MT Educare even at these prices. I would recommend that he looks for some other sector for investment for long-term point of view.
Any topic, Vikas, that you would like to recommend to our viewers if somebody wants to make a fresh investment into markets right now?
There are lots of stocks which have fallen sharply over the last 1 or 2 months in the recent carnage which we've witnessed in the mid cap and small caps. So, but if I were to name a few, I think one would be advised to invest in an AB Capital at these levels. I like the stock. The stock has corrected from its recent highs, and I think with improvements or with pickup expected in the markets after, say, this financial year ends, I think the stock like an AB Capital would certainly give you much better returns. So my advice would be to invest in AB Capital at these levels from a long-term point of view.
Okay, Benish, so instead of looking at MT Educare, what Vikas is suggesting, you can probably look at something like AB Capital if you want to put in your money. We're getting a lot of your live queries on Facebook and Twitter. Let's just go across to them. And actually, we're getting queries on YouTube as well. I'm going to take Nikhil's query, which is coming on Facebook first. He's asking which is the best mid or a small cap stock to invest with a short-term view. Okay, Sameet, I'm going to come to you. Considering this sort of correction that we've seen in the recent past, any stock from the broader market that you can advise Nikhil to take a position, keeping in mind that it would be a short-term investment?
So in that case, I would pick MCX. We have been liking this stock since the early part of February. The stock has already given 10% move, and since last 3 days it has corrected a bit from higher levels. So it is trading around its previous breakout points, somewhere around 755, 760. So I would suggest one can go long at current level. It becomes a low risk buy at current level. Keep a strict stop loss somewhere around 752. And we expect the stock to head towards 800, 815 over the next few days.
Okay, MCX is the call coming in from Sameet from the broader market if somebody wants to make a fresh investment. For this year, the stock's seen correction of nearly 15%. Our next query comes on YouTube, and this is from Akash Randev. He's bought 500 shares of United Breweries at 1,016. He wants to know, should he continue holding these shares, and what should be the ideal time frame too of holding these shares? Vikas, I'll come to you. United Breweries, somebody's bought 1,016. 916. The stock slipped to levels of 992. He wants to know A, if you should continue holding. If yes, B, what should be the time frame of the holding?
Now, first, this stock is a good quality stock. I think one could certainly look at this. It looks good from a long-term point of view based on the consumption story which we are expecting to play out over the coming years. So I would recommend a hold on whatever he has bought into. Although he's sitting on some losses, he need not panic and stay invested in this kind of a stock. And as far as his targets are concerned, I think he should expand his time horizon. He should wait for at least 1 or 2 years, and where I feel from here on we could see an upside of close to 60-70% in the next 2 years on the stock.
Okay, Akash, so you can hold on to your shares of United Breweries for the next 1 to 2 years, and Vikas is also suggesting he expects a substantial upside for United Breweries, as according to him this is a good quality stock. Saurav Kumar on Twitter says he's bought shares of Motherson Sumi at 323 with a 5-year view. He wants to know what to do with this investment. If you could just pull up the current price of Motherson Sumi, it is around 307, so it has slipped below the buy price of Saurav Kumar. Sorry for pronouncing that name wrong. Vikas, I'll come back to you. View on Motherson Sumi, a good stock to keep in the portfolio?
Yeah, Navneet, an excellent quality stock. This is a leading company from the auto component industry. The sector is doing well with the kind of robust growth which is being witnessed in the automobile sector. I continue to remain bullish on the stock. He has bought it at a price closer to the current market price, and I think since his view for about 5 years, he should remain invested. And I see tremendous potential in the company, and I think it would generate substantial returns for the investor in the next 5 years.
Okay, that's the view coming in on Motherson Sumi. This year, though, since the markets have also corrected, the stock's down nearly 19%, and the stock's also trading with cuts of about 1%. Well, let's take some more live queries that we are getting. Satya Subhash writes to us. He wants to invest in RCF, and he's asking if this is the right time to put his money there. Sameet, I'll come to you. Both RCF and the other power finance companies, PFC, have been trading weak, and they've, I guess, bounced back. I don't know if I'm using the right term, bounced back from their 52-week low, but they are hovering around their 52-week low mark. Do you think if somebody wants to buy this stock with a longer term view, this is the right level to buy?
See, as far as RCF is concerned, if you look at it from a slightly broader perspective, monthly chart certainly looks good. It has been maintaining its sturdy structure, higher top, higher bottom formation. In last 5 to 6 months, we've already seen a massive run up in all those fertilizer stocks. However, in last couple of months, yes, all these stocks have come off quite significantly. But if he has a longer term horizon, then probably we can interpret this corrective move just as a pullback towards its previous breakout point. So it would be very difficult to time the entry point. So any dip from current level, probably in the zone of say 70 to 65, that becomes a good buying opportunity for RCF. So one can accumulate this stock on any dip, probably the zone of 70 to 65.
Okay, so you can look to accumulate RCF around the levels of 65 or 72, as Sameet just highlighted. The counter is currently trading around the mark of 74. On YouTube, Abhishek Rai is asking between KNR Constructions and PNC Infra, which is a better bet with a long-term view. Vikas, if you track both these stocks, which one do you like, KNR Construction, PNC Infra?
Yeah, Navneet, both the stocks are good quality stocks. They come from the infrastructure space, and the infrastructure space, the entire space looks promising, and they are stocks or companies where the balance sheet quality is also good. They have a pretty healthy balance sheet and good strong order book also. But out of the two, if I were to choose one, I would go with a KNR Construction. So I would recommend a KNR Construction to be bought at these levels from a long-term point of view.
Okay, so Vikas is choosing KNR Construction at current levels. Just want to take one query on Facebook. Vipul Kaila is asking view on AB Capital. Vipul, just a while back on the show, we did discuss, in fact, AB Capital seems to be the top pick from Vikas if somebody wants to make a fresh investment into the market. So AB Capital, according to Vikas, is looking good. But Sauryadhar on YouTube is asking, He's saying rather, he's bought 1,000 shares of Adani Enterprises at a price of 185 with a short-term view. And high beta counter has been in focus in the recent past, and Saurya wants to know what should he do with this. 163 is the current price. Sameet bought at 185. Should he place a stop loss or he should get out of this position?
No, obviously he should place a stop loss. The stock has corrected quite sharply from higher levels. However, in last couple of weeks, we have been witnessing some kind of respite as the stock corrected towards its 200-day moving average. So I would rather suggest him to hold on, keep a stop loss below 154, which is the recent swing low. And if he has a shorter term view, then any bounce back from current level probably towards 180, 185, he can look to exit this position.
Okay, that's the view coming in on Adani Enterprises. And the next query is coming from Nikhil on YouTube. Nikhil Raja says he's bought 200 shares of Magad Sugar at a price of 180, and he has a short-term view. Actually, he wants a view both short as well as long-term view on this counter. Magad Sugar is somewhere about 128, so that's a very, very high level where Nikhil, you've entered into this counter. And we know that sugar stocks have been in focus. I think the recent news is that the government has cut down the export duty, and the reason for that was there was a lot of inventory which is lying with the mills. So to get rid of that, I think the government has reduced the export duty. But I'm going to take this query back to you, Sameet. Magad Sugar on the charts, I don't know how liquid this stock is. What's the view in the short term? And also if you could tell us positionally, if somebody wants to keep it, what sort of levels to monitor here?
So honestly speaking, we don't track this counter, and this is a newly listed stock, so I don't have sufficient historical data also. But just talking about the sugar space, we've already seen massive correction in last 4 or 5 months in all the sugar stocks. Within this, Balrampur Chini is the one stock that we have been closely tracking, and coincidentally, couple of days back, we went contra buy on this particular counter around 81, 82, and from those levels, the stock has already bounced back 10%. But from current level also, we would expect some kind of relief rally in all those sugar stocks. As far as Magad Sugar is concerned, any bounce back probably towards 145, 150, he can look to exit his positions. But within this space, if we have to pick any particular counter, then Balrampur Chini is the one stock that we are closely tracking.
Okay. Sameet suggests you can look to exit Magad Sugar if there's a bounce back towards those levels of 140, 145. Vikas, just wanted to check if you track this counter, any fundamental view here?
No, Navneet, I do not track this counter, but as far as the sugar space is concerned, I feel they are headed downwards. I think it's the peak of the sugar cycle. From a trading point of view, we could see some bounce back, as Sameet had just now pointed out. But then from an investment point of view, I think it's time to exit sugar stocks. The sugar prices are headed downwards, and with the kind of bumper crop which we are expecting in India, I think there would not be any much respite in sugar stocks. So for an investor, it would be advised to exit sugar sector and switch to some other sector which are expected to do well over the coming months or quarters.
In fact, sugar prices have headed lower. In our recent conversation with ISMA management, they also highlighted that the sugar prices have been coming off in the recent past. But our next query comes in from Utsav Singh on Facebook. He's asking between RBL and Federal Bank, so both being the private banking stocks, which is a better bet with a long-term view. Vikas, I'll come back to you. If somebody were to choose between RBL and Federal, which one would that be?
Yeah, both the banks are that way good because they've all corrected significantly from the recent highs. But if I were to choose between the two, I would go with an RBL bank. I think the growth story looks better out there. The management has been pretty aggressive in their branch expansion, and the asset quality remains also much better compared to a Federal Bank. So my choice would be an RBL bank from between the two stocks.
Okay, so Vikas is choosing RBL between both RBL and Federal Bank. And this year RBL, well, the entire universe, the banking stocks have seen some bit of correction, so that's down nearly 9%. On YouTube, Ragesh GR says he's bought Mithun Alloys at 857, and he's also bought Phillips Carbon at 1045 with a 4-year view, and he wants to know if he should add more at current levels. Mithun is at 849, so hovering around the same level. Let's check where Phillips Carbon is, 1042, so same level around only. So looks like he's bought these stocks recently. Vikas, do you track Mythin Alloys and Philip Carbon? If yes, our viewer wants to know if he should add more at current levels.
Yeah, Navneet, both the stocks are good quality stocks. They have pretty solid fundamentals. They are debt-free companies and are in the right space. And I would recommend holding on to both of them. But as far as buying fresh at these levels is concerned, I am more confident in Philips Carbon Black. I feel this Carbon Black story is going to gather momentum and is going to continue for quite some time. So I would recommend that from among the two stocks, if he were to buy into one, I think Philips Carbon Black would be a better choice. The stock has also corrected from its recent highs, available at reasonable levels, and with the kind of momentum which is being witnessed in these carbon sector, be it Philips Carbon Black or a HEG or a Graphite India, I think there's a lot of steam left. So my recommendation would be to buy into Philips Carbon Black at the current levels.
Okay, that's the view coming in on Philip Carbon as well as Mythin Alloys. Let's take some more queries, and this one comes on the tire space on YouTube. Rishabh Tiwari is asking between JK Tire, Apollo Tire, and also I guess he's included the other tire stocks like Sethi, which is a better bet from a longer term perspective. Vikas, I'll come back to you in the tire space. What is your top pick?
Yeah, as far as the tire space is concerned, that is also doing well. They've also corrected from the recent highs, but if I were to choose one, MRF remains the best bet. But from among the stocks which the investor wants to know about, I think Apollo Tires would make a case for investment at the current levels. So I would go with an Apollo Tires from the three stocks which you mentioned.
Okay, Apollo Tires looks better at current levels for a fresh investment is what Vikas is suggesting. Our next query is on BPCL. Sanjeev Kumar on YouTube says he's bought 500 shares at 525. He's asking what should he do? What's the current price? It's somewhere about 430. Looks like he's entered at really higher levels. Sameet, what would you advise him? Should he be closing this position, or he can place a stop loss?
See, I think you should place a stop loss, especially after correcting quite significantly in the recent past. Overall, if we see, OMCs have enjoyed their multi-year bull run, which started way back in 2014. Since last 3-4 months, we have been witnessing some kind of consolidation or time-wise correction of this larger degree bull run. With a near-term view, 420, 425 seems to be a very strong support. So I would rather ask him to hold. If the stock slides below 420 on a closing basis, then probably in the near term we could see further correction. So at this juncture, it is at a make or break level. If any bounce back has to come, then this is the level from where we could see some kind of relief rally.
Okay, that's the view on BPCL. Our next query is on Twitter, which is come from Vikas Jha. He's bought 500 shares of JHS Vanguard, which is a company which sells oral care products. He's bought at 59 rupees with a long-term view. He wants to know what to do, and the current price is somewhere about 59 itself. Vikas, do you track JHS Vanguard?
Sorry, Navneet, I do not track this stock and would not be able to offer my opinion on the same. But if one were to look at the FMCG space, I think Dabur and Marico from the Indian FMCG sector, the companies which are Indian actually, this space is dominated mostly by the multinational companies, but then I think Dabur and Marico look good, and I would advise investment in these kind of stocks from the FMCG sector.
Okay, so Dabur and Marico are Vikas's top pick from the FMCG space. But Sameet, if on the charts, if you could give a view on JHS Vanguard, if somebody's bought at current levels, what sort of levels can he be looking at on the upside?
See, looking at the volume activity, it is quite clear that there's a lack of buying interest in this counter. The stock has corrected gradually from higher levels, and now it is trading around its important support levels of 58. So since it is trading around its important support levels, I would rather ask him to hold with a strict stop loss of 58. If this stock slides below 58, it is heading for much lower levels. So as of now, keep a stop loss at 58 in case if the stock gives a decent bounce back towards 67, 68, that is the level to reassess the situation.
Okay, JHS Vanguard today is not doing much, but this year the stock is down nearly 20%. Let me take just one more query. On YouTube, Srinidhi NLN says Srinidhi's bought ITC at 261,500 quantity. She wants to know if she should continue to hold. Sameet, I'll come back to you on this. Bought around the same level, 260 to 61,500 quantity. What should be the target here?
See, with the trading view, there's a range for this particular counter. On the higher side, 272 has become a very strong resistance. Low side, there's a support around 253. So we expect this consolidation to continue. If any positive momentum has to trigger in this counter, then first it has to sustain about 272. So as of now, if you have to give any higher targets, at least in the near term, then 271, 272, which would be the near term targets.
Vikas, you've already said Dabur, Marico are your top picks. What about ITC?
No, ITC also looks good. If you look at the valuations of ITC compared to an HUL, the ITC trades at a much lower valuations. It's a significant discount. So I like this stock, and if one has a long-term point of view, I think it would make sense to buy into ITC at the current levels. And if one has invested, he can certainly hold on to it from a long-term point of view.
Okay, that's the view on ITC. You can look to hold on if you have a longer term perspective here. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank both our guests. Thank you very much, Sameet and Vikas, for helping our viewers with their queries. And that's all that we have in this edition of Ask BQ. But remember, we're just a tweet, post, or a call away. So keep your queries coming, and we promise to address all of them in our shows. You can also log on to bloombergquint.com, search for hashtag AskBQ and get answers to all the queries that were discussed on the show today. Well, Power Lunch is up next, so keep watching Bloomberg Quint.